Virginia Tech 42, Miami 35. The Canes fall to 2-3. They trailed 28-0 out of the gate. They made it a game coming all the way back to 35 all. But with the game on the line, they gave up a final drive to Virginia Tech, marching all the way down the field after the Hokies had not done much offensively for the entirety of the second half. They let the Hokies march it all the way down the field and score with about a minute left to play. And then Miami took two shots at the end zone and could not convert to tie the game and take it into overtime. So the Canes fall again to 2-3, and Virginia Tech now at 3-2. And as I emphasized in the first part of this two-part series in analyzing this game, you got to consider this Virginia Tech team and how poorly they've played now for the last 18 games. They went 6-7 last year. They lost to everybody who's any good. They beat one decent team, Virginia, in overtime. They lost by double digits in all the other games, most of them by 3 scores, to the likes of Pitt by 30 points, Georgia Tech by 21, across the board, losing by 3 scores. And then this season, getting bombarded by Duke 45-10 by 5 touchdowns, beating Old Dominion and Furman by 7 and 14. So this is Virginia Tech football right now. This is not Virginia Tech 2005. And the Canes lose it as a 14-point favorite. Okay, let's get to the second half analysis. If you want to check out what I had to say about the first half, please watch the video and comment. I want to get your take on this as well, of course. N'Kosi Perry, it seemed like this was his kind of game, and I mentioned this in the first video. He was loose. He was in rhythm. Maybe you just knew, hey, I got to bring this team back, and we got to sling it all over the field, and I kind of like this. He threw 47 passes, completed 28 for 422 yards. He had one bad pick. He really threw 2 bad picks, but one was brought back due to penalty, and we'll talk about that in just a second. 422 yards passing for N'Kosi Perry, and maybe he's wrestled the starting job back from Jaron Williams, who threw 3 bad interceptions. Really, 2 were horrible interceptions out of the 3. To start the game. So the offense was in rhythm. Maybe they just knew we got to throw it. We got to chuck it all over the field, and they seemed loosey-goosey and all over the field. And they got Jeff Thomas involved. 6 catches for $124 and 2 touchdowns, and most of that, of course, in the second half. They got Jeff Thomas in the ball game. Unfortunately, Hendon Hooker also was in the ball game, and he only completed 10 of 20, but for $184. So big chunk plays for the Virginia Tech offense and 3 touchdowns, all to Dalton Keene. We'll talk about Dalton Keene and the Canes' inability to find him in coverage. So we're in the third quarter. Hooker at a go route to Damon Hazelton, who burned Al Blades. And fortunately for Miami, Hooker missed him. He laid it out there. It was just a couple steps too deep. Otherwise, that thing would have gone 70 yards for a touchdown. Al Blades burned on that play. In addition to just N'Kosi Perry looking sharp, just slinging the ball around, and the receivers getting open, making nice catches, there was some diversity to the offense. One play in particular gained a ton of yardage, and it was a nice little reverse toss sweep on the jet sweep, but it was a reverse from the opposite side of the formation to Mike Harley going right. The only thing that stopped the Miami offense was the Miami offensive line. It continued to be awful, especially in the third quarter, even though that's when they mounted the comeback due to some big plays. The offensive line, they gave up 9 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. Navon Donaldson at times was completely abused. Zion Nelson was beaten on a regular basis as well for some of those sacks. It was not pretty. Miami trying to get back in the game, 28-14 ball game, possibly 35-14 at this point. And N'Kosi Perry, deep in his own end, threw a bad interception. Now, again, the offensive line was like a sieve. 2 guys were in his face before you could know it. He actually dodged them and was scrambling to his right for survival and just whipped the ball. And it is difficult to determine whether he was trying to throw it out of bounds or he saw somebody out there and he thought he could make a Brett Favre kind of throw, but it was intercepted and brought back inside the Miami 5. Now, I watched the condensed version. I don't know exactly what happened. I looked at the play-by-play. There was a flag on Virginia Tech. This most likely would have ended the game. I believe it was either 28-14 or 35-14, and this might have sealed it near the end of the third quarter. But the interception was wiped out, maybe due to pass interference. So maybe it was a legit penalty that actually affected the play. Anyway, bad decision by Perry, but again, the offensive line and their inability to keep the rush out forced it. The pass protection was abysmal. Okay, Virginia Tech got a big play down the right sideline to Mitchell from Hooker all the way down inside the Miami 5. When they ran a rub play, they had two wide receivers off to the right side of the formation. One was back off the line of scrimmage. They ran him underneath. Bubba Bolden, instead of going over the top because the wideout was going deep, he tried to cut it underneath. He slipped, and that let Mitchell wide open, and the ball was perfectly placed, and they got it inside the 5. And then there was that guy again, Dalton Keene, for the touchdown here with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It looked like Michael Pinckney was supposed to pick him up, and he found him late, and Dalton Keene scored another touchdown for the Hokies. More N'Kosi Perry, loose, in rhythm. All right. The score that got Miami back in the game when it appeared as though they didn't have enough time, but they ripped off one chunk play, courtesy DJ Dallas, who got the 2-point conversion prior to that. So Manny Diaz making a very interesting coaching decision here. Down 35-21. It would be conventional just to score the touchdown, kick the extra point, and hope that you can score twice in the final 5 minutes and force the game into overtime. Manny Diaz had the thought, we're going to go for 2 after this touchdown. We'll go for 2, make it 35-29, and then we can win the game with the final touchdown. Or if we don't get the 2-point conversion here, then we still have the opportunity down by 8 to score the touchdown and tie the game with the 2-point conversion. Interesting strategy. That would have worked if his field goal kicker could kick the extra point. So DJ Dallas made a tremendous effort to beat the defense to the corner, rip it up the sideline, and dive. I mean, dive. There are dives to the pylon. DJ Dallas laid out, stretched out, parallel to the ground to get to the pylon and get the 2-point conversion. And then the next time the Canes got the ball, his little duck and move and juke 62 yards as the Virginia Tech defense completely over-pursued the play. So DJ Dallas with 2 of the game-changing kind of plays that Miami needs in the final 4 minutes of the game. But they look like they're going to take the lead, but Bubba Baxa misses the extra point. So with all that energy, all that momentum coming back from 28-0 to tie it at 35, going to take the lead, they go for 2 in the previous touchdown to set themselves up to take the lead. Bubba Baxa misses the extra point. Not only did Baxa miss the extra point, then he kicked off. And he kicked off to the 11-yard line. To the 11-yard line. And the Hokies brought it out to the 35, which set them up in decent field position. They went all the way down the field. Hooker had a beautiful throw over the top to Hazelton. Beautiful fade right over his shoulder. Can't really fault Trajan Bandy, who was right there in coverage. He was right there. It was just a beautifully placed, perfectly placed pass that could not be defended. And then the play that set up the touchdown was Dalton Keene again. Another play in which they brought him across the formation. So they bring him from the tight end spot on the right side, and he just crosses the formation along the offensive line, gets himself lost, and there he is. Boom. Down the left side of the field, wide open. So Miami never adjusted to that. Dalton Keene scored 3 touchdowns. And again, I know who Dalton Keene is. I've been watching this kid play for a few years. He's been integral to this offense. He doesn't put up prolific numbers, but you got to know where he is, and you got to make the adjustments after you get burned time and time and time again. He takes it all the way down to the 4-yard line, and then Virginia Tech scores the touchdown. Interesting that N'Kosi Perry brings the Canes down the field. I don't know exactly what happened here. Again, I watched the condensed version of the game because it was 2nd and 10 at the Virginia Tech. So I don't know exactly what happened right here because I watched the condensed version, but final drive of the game for Miami, down 42-35 at the Virginia Tech 36, 2nd and 10, no timeouts. So you can't throw the ball to the middle of the field. You have to go to the sideline or to the end zone. Perry threw one to the middle of the field. It was caught. Then I know there was a flag, but again, because of the sequence with the condensed version of the game, I don't know what the flag was. And suddenly Miami was in good shape to take 2 shots at the end zone. So N'Kosi Perry with a poor decision there because the clock would have run out. He only had like 12 seconds left on the clock, and he's throwing the ball to the middle of the field with no timeouts. 2 shots at the end zone, neither one very close, and Miami loses 42-35. Virginia's up next at Hard Rock Stadium. Check out the first half analysis. This has been the second half analysis right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We, of course, have a large Miami contingent. Wanted to get your thoughts on the game. I wanted to go play-by-play and see where the breakdowns are. Bubba Baxa, offensive line. The linebacking play isn't great. They didn't protect the ball in the first 10 minutes of the game. If you lose the turnover battle to any number, you lose the game most of the time. If you lose the turnover battle 5-0, you lose the game 98% of the time, and Miami still had a tie score with 1 minute left to play. Canes lose at 42-35. Need to hear from you now. Like, comment, share, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.